He says people fear losing money, but we should fear wasting life. You don't have to wait until you reach financial independence to start enjoying your life. You can do that much earlier and start living a life that you love and that's true to you. Welcome to Freedom Before 5. Using FIRE and life design techniques, we help you create freedom on your way to 5 instead of waiting until you're retired to do the things that light you up. I'm your host Greg, a FIRE movement and life design enthusiast. If you're itching to get freedom now, then let's do this. Hello there and welcome back to another episode, and I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in today. So in the last 4 episodes, we covered FI books that have helped me on my journey, and I wanted to share the biggest lessons I learned from them with you. So the 4 books we covered so far included Rich Dad Poor Dad, Quit Like a Millionaire, The Simple Path to Wealth, and How to Retire Early. On today's episode, of course, we'll be covering the amazing book Die with Zero, with the subtitle Getting All You Can from Your Money and Your Life, written by Bill Perkins in 2020. Now, this is not your typical FI book where they normally teach us how to optimize saving and investing. This flips the script a little, and the author recommends focusing on optimizing for life fulfillment. So in essence, although the author acknowledges we need to earn money, we just have to make sure we allocate it wisely throughout our life, and specifically on experiences that bring us life enjoyment. So this book kind of threw a little mini grenade over the FI side of the fence and just woke everyone up a bit. And there's a reason for it. It's changed the conventional FI thinking about money and living, only by just a bit, because of course in the FI world, our spending is values driven. Anyway, the book actually helped nudge me to take my second sabbatical and also plan lots of fun activities during it. What Bill Perkins argues is that sometimes people save way too much over their lifetime, to the point that there's still lots left on the table when we're old or even when we've passed. So he strongly believes that the money should have been used for fulfillment across our lifespans. He says people fear losing money, but we should fear wasting life. So on the book's website, it reads, "Conventional financial wisdom has conditioned us to fear having too little as we age. Actually, data shows the opposite. For heads of households between the ages of 70 and 74, the median net worth was $225,390. Too late to enjoy many of life's most fulfilling experiences." Essentially, we should be using the 3 main resources we have in our life, which is money, time, and health, in the most optimized way to maximize net fulfillment and not net worth. And that is the premise of the book. It's like the old video game Tetris. How do we fit all of life's resource blocks together correctly? And if we don't fit them correctly, we lose out. Anyway, I'm sure that's given you a rough idea of the principles of the book. Let's dive into my 3 biggest lessons. So big lesson number 1 is we have multiple deaths in our lives. Don't worry, I'll explain as we go. So one of the key things he advises is to plan the experiences we want to have throughout our lives. We need to step back and be intentional with how we live. The biggest reason for this is because one of our biggest life resources is being chipped away at daily. And of course, this is time, and ultimately our health as every day goes by. So we need to get off autopilot and be deliberate. It's a sad fact that we will all get older and our health will decline. And of course, as we get older, the number of activities and experiences we're able to do diminishes. That's because we physically can't do them anymore, or we're just in a different stage of our life. I mean, we could potentially do some crazy activities when we're older, but chances are we won't enjoy them as much because our bodies probably won't let us. One of the funny examples he mentions is along the lines of, you're not going to do heli skiing when you're a senior citizen. You'll be doing that much earlier in life. And he also said that since he's in his 50s, his party and glow stick days are done. So his solution, or mental model he calls, is using what he coined time buckets. which is different to having a bucket list. So the main difference with a bucket list is that with bucket lists, you don't schedule when you'll do them, and it's just a long list of things to do with no strategy. So with time bucketing, you can time bucket your life for every 5 or 10 years, for example. So a 5-year version could be the 25 to 30-year-old bucket, the 30 to 35 years old bucket, 35 to 40, and so on. Naturally, your 25 to 30 bucket would be massively different to your 65 to 70. So as an example, your 25 to 30 bucket may be filled with more active things like hiking a mountain, backpack around Europe, maybe start a side hustle or a business. While your 65 to 70 bucket might be filled with more chilled things like spend time with grandchildren, learn a new language, start a vegetable garden. What hit home for me is when the author mentioned that we have multiple deaths in our lives. Our lives consist of different stages with endpoints. So since we have different stages in life, those stages just come and go. Like we're only teenagers once, that comes and goes. So then the teenager in us dies, metaphorically speaking. Then the university student in us dies. Then the single and ready to mingle phase of you dies, and so on. So the moral of the lesson is, let's plan the activities we would love to do at the most optimal age in our lifespan. So just a quick story. In the last few years, I've taken my parents to different tropical islands around Philippines, like El Nido and Bohol. So in El Nido, for example, one of the main things to do there is island hopping. When we were there, we did do the island hopping thing, which was amazing. But since my parents are in their mid-70s, there were a few things we couldn't do together, like snorkeling or like paddle boarding, because they're not as mobile as they were before. And it's a shame because they've never actually done some of those things. Now, of course, it wasn't a biggie, but it just makes you think. Anyway, of course, I'm just so glad that we were able to have those experiences in the first place, like spending time with them in a tropical island, because they're just so memorable. All right, let's go on to big lesson number 2. All right, so big lesson number 2 is at the end of the day, life is all about memories. One of the key concepts in the book is what he calls a memory dividend. Much like how your stock investment portfolio will give you a quarterly dividend year on year, he says that the time we invest in creating experiences will give us dividends in the future, and those are in the form of memories. So having awesome experiences has 2 benefits. You first get the joy factor while you're actually doing the activity, and secondly, you'll get the benefit of recalling the experience in the future, and at multiple times. And of course, that's through remembering the event, or even telling the story with the people who were there, especially if it was like a once-in-a-lifetime trip or an embarrassing moment. Like in my family, we've had a few holidays with my parents and my siblings, and sometimes when me and my siblings get together, we always bring up these funny holiday stories and we just laugh about them. So that then creates another fun experience. Anywho, the moral of this lesson is, just like the stock market, invest in experiences early to start raking in the benefits of those memory dividends in the future. Okay, on to big lesson number 3. So big lesson number 3 is don't forget the cheese. So there are 2 types of spenders. The YOLO spender who wants to splash out all the time, and then there's the oversaver. So 2 extremes. What I gathered from the book is that Bill is trying to guide us somewhere in the middle of the 2, so we don't end up broke, and we're also not wasting our money by keeping it stashed away somewhere. Now, the early FIRE movement definitely leaned more to the oversaver type. And when I think about it, the original FIRE goal was to create a massive stash so that you never run out. Anyway, if our money never diminishes, then I can kind of see why from the author's point of view, it might actually be a bit of a waste, especially if you don't have any plans for the money when you pass. That's just a lot of time spent working without using the money that you got from it. I liked when he said, money is supposed to be used as a tool, which I totally agree with, like a hammer and a saw. But he said that some people just keep buying hammers and saws and never actually use it to build anything. Another analogy he used that I like was that people can also be like the hamster on a wheel. Now a hamster will run on the wheel to get the reward, which is the cheese. But what sometimes happens is that we just keep running, i.e. we keep working and working, getting good at our jobs, getting more money, saving, getting more, and saving again, but never getting the reward, never stopping to enjoy the fruits of our labour. The author reminds us that we should use the money we got from working hard for fulfilling experiences along our journey. So in short, just remember, don't forget the cheese. Okay, so those are the 3 big lessons from the book. Let's do a quick recap. So big lesson number 1 was we will have multiple deaths in our lives. Big lesson number 2, at the end of the day, life is all about memories. Big lesson number 3 is don't forget the cheese. Thank you for spending your time with us today. If you need more help, you can check out our free guides and services on our website, freedom.5.com. If you have a burning question or just want to chat, don't hesitate to drop me an email at greg@freedom.5.com. If you found the show useful and want to be notified of future episodes, you can click follow on Spotify, Apple, or the app you're currently using right now. If you think the episode will help a friend or a colleague, feel free to share it with them. And lastly, if you learned just one good thing that will help you in your journey and you want to help us out, please do leave a 5-star rating on your podcast player app. That would help us out loads. Alright, so that wraps up the 5 books that have helped me on my journey so far. I mean, I do have other books that I didn't cover, like the Choose FI book, Millionaire Expat, the Bogglehead's Guide to Investing, and a few others. But then this would just end up being a book summary podcast. Anyway, I hope you have an awesome week. And as always, practice gratitude, live life by your design, and do things that make you smile. You got this.